Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, NES Classic Edition, not being as good at games as you remember being, and the myth of artificial scarcity. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I'm joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell.
Hey Patrick, how's it going?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Like we talked about last week, my boyfriend is out of the country right now, and so I am watching his dog.
Yes, this dog, Pizza.
Pizza
is the dog's name.
And Pizza and I get along okay, but we're not best friends.
Sure.
And the other night we had a long, serious conversation because he likes to lick his paws, and so I was putting this spray on it.
Now, you mentioned this spray over the weekend.
Yeah.
Is it a spray specifically designed to discourage dogs from licking things?
Licking their paws,
specifically
specifically for their
okay.
fur and skin, because it's supposed to help it heal. But then it also has peppermint or something in it so they're not it's something that's apparently they're not supposed to like.
Sure.
So I was spraying it on it.
Dogs don't chew gum, as far as I know.
Yeah, exactly. They don't like spearmint. And so I was spraying it on his paw, and he kind of snipped at me,
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So we had a long conversation where I put on my best disappointed voice.
Yeah. Does it seem like he's listening?
It does, because I'm like, oh, Pizza, bad dog. That's a bad dog thing to do, and pointing at my hand where he tried to snip at it and be like, ow, you could have hurt me, bad Pizza. And he's puts his head down and won't look me in the eye, and
right.
So he's feeling it.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Has he tried to take a bite out of you since?
Well, in his defense, he didn't try to grab the meat of me.
Well, sure,
he was
yeah,
just snipping at the
it
air.
was a
being
warning
get
bite.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't make contact or anything. I'm excusing his poor behavior.
Yeah, you're an enabler, Mark. If this dog has bad behavior, it's your fault.
Yep. But no, he has not. He has not tried to
take another bite.
Sense. Yeah.
Great. Mark, should we talk about the weather?
I feel like we have to.
It's time to talk about the weather. I would say unremarkable. Not very hot, a little bit hot.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and complain because that's what I do
Fine,
about the weather.
bring it on.
But so we're at that time, and it's actually later. It's actually later this year than it usually is, but we're at that time in LA where it's warm during the day, kind of annoyingly warm during the day. But then because it's fall and the sun goes down earlier, it gets colder at night.
Right, and gets colder earlier and stays colder longer.
Yeah, so you're just how am I supposed to dress? It's a whole thing.
I don't know if this is weather related, but why is there so much moon news these days? Have you noticed this? That there's always yes, I know this sounds like my tight five for the comedy store, but I feel like every day there's oh, you gotta check out the harvest moon or the super moon or whatever is happening right now.
Yes, it's a super moon.
Okay.
Which I guess is cool in the sense that it's a full moon, and it's the closest the Earth and the moon are to each other.
Okay. This is when they should have released Pokemon Sun and Moon, or at least the moon part of it.
But
they
yeah,
do a
I don't know.
Staggered release just to coincide with the
or
super
at least
moon.
flip it and the NES Mini.
Yeah.
Do it on Friday.
It could all be done.
Ugh.
Mark, let's talk about what games we've been playing.
Great.
What have you been playing?
I finally started Dragon Quest VII.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Our long national nightmare is over. Mark has started Dragon Quest VII.
Well, I've only been able to play an hour and a half of it, and have not done a battle yet.
Great.
I think I've gotten to a point where I'm about to battle something, but I had to stop playing before I could actually do it.
So what then is your first hour and a half? What are you doing for that much time?
I also have to say that I have the kind of personality in RPGs where I will run into every available room and open every available like
Yeah,
closet and
yeah.
like drawer and stuff like that. And I think this game is going to, I'm just not going to be able to do that and ever finish it.
Sure, it's the Skyrim
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but apparently the original release of Dragon Quest 7 had an even longer opening before but and so this is like a pared down version, but basically what you're doing is it's scene setting. It's
Yeah.
like this is the world you exist in now and this is your relationship to things. And it didn't bother me. Like at no point was I like, "Oh my gosh, just get to the battles."
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it later in the game it'll pay off because it's like, oh, this you went on this like huge journey with these characters because this is where you started and you spent so much time
Yeah.
figuring out like where you came from. So to see the change at the end will actually be meaningful.
That it's so interesting that it takes so long to even get to combat. Like I can think of a lot of other RPGs that are super slow to start, or at least relatively slow to start. But like the Final Fantasy series is usually really good about throwing you right into something. Like Final Fantasy VII starts with you raiding one of the Mako reactors,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the characters come together afterwards and then have their like quiet thing together, and then the game like slows down and makes you read text for 45 minutes.
Right.
But it starts off with combat. It's weird that Dragon Quest is like, no.
Well, it's specifically Dragon Quest 7
Yeah.
is like a weird outlier in this case. And I don't know, like I was expecting to kind of be annoyed by it, but I mean, just because I don't have that much time to play games,
Yeah.
and so I'm kind of like, I want to get to it. But contrast that with, I think like the last major RPG I played that I can think of was like Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And that is a game whose beginning like throws you into it immediately, and it's kind of to its detriment because the whole story is predicated on like the character's motivations from the beginning,
yeah.
and it feels so out of whack because it's like I don't
You don't know who they are.
as
Yeah.
the role player, I don't care at all about the characters I'm supposed to care about. And I don't know if in Dragon Quest 7 I'm gonna be like, oh, I deeply care about these characters, but it at least gives me like some moment of like
Yeah.
living in the world, and the
Yeah.
world is interesting enough that again I wasn't like bored or annoyed or anything like that.
What would you say? Let's see if we can come up with these quickly. What is your favorite RPG opening?
I really like Final Fantasy 9.
Final Fantasy 9 starts with it's Zidane and the bandits like robbing something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a heist during the big RPG festival.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The big Final Fantasy festival. That should
Um,
be a thing if it's not already. Final Fantasy Festival.
that should be a thing.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
has to be a thing.
If not, Mark. If not, I'm just gonna look up.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
just look it
register
up
the
right
domain
now.
name.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that one a
that's a
lot.
good
I think
answer.
that because I love heists, and so I think that's a fun one.
Mm-hmm. I think I would say Super Mario RPG because
Oh, yeah.
it starts with Mario going to Bowser's castle to rescue the princess. It does like a whole Mario game in miniature,
Yeah.
and then it's like, nope, boom, the game is something entirely different. Well, great. I expect regular updates on Dragon Quest VII.
I will probably be playing this game till I die.
I think that's
So,
right.
And like, if it really is like 100 hours to complete the main story, and I can do this in hour and a half increments a week.
Right. That means you're going to be doing this for
For, like, at
another
least 2 years.
66 weeks. Yeah, so like a year and change.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're still going at that point.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm not dead.
We could be dead. Who knows? Other games I've been playing. Guess what? There are a lot of old Nintendo games.
Well, I mean, we might as well. We haven't discussed it at all, but we
we
have
have
NES
NES.
minis,
Yes.
Classic Editions.
We each have an NES Classic Edition, and we'll get into the grand saga of securing those things a little bit later on in the show. So that's a teaser, right? Right there. But so as a result, Mark, you and I together played through Super Mario Brothers 2.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you, that game proving to be more challenging than I remembered it being.
After we played, I went home and I played a little bit of Super Mario Brothers, the first one.
Yeah.
I went through the whole thing using warp pipe, so just did not all the levels at all.
Sure,
Did
you
it pretty
did. You did
quickly.
like whatever path you used to do as a kid.
And then I started Super Mario Brothers 3 as
Mhm.
well and played through the first two worlds. And I was like frustrated with myself because I haven't played these games regularly for a very long time. I don't buy virtual console titles.
Sure.
I was one of the people who bought when they for the Wii just like slapped Super Mario Brothers All Star onto a disc and called it an anniversary edition.
Yeah, you bought that?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, all right.
And so that's like the last time I played it, which at this point was probably like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I was frustrated with myself because I remember being so good at these games, and now, I'm okay, but I'm not like as quick or as good at them anymore. And so I
Right.
was like frustrated with myself because I would like die and I'd be like, ugh,
I
why am
gotta
I
go
making this
back.
stupid
Yeah.
mistake?
And you're like, you're making the mistakes because like your muscle memory's not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Super Mario Brothers 2, when we were playing it, was that way, where it
Yeah.
was just like,
Well, we were also doing Super Mario Brothers 2. As a kid, I had like a very specific warp path through the game. So there
mhm.
were levels that I've played every level in the game at some point in my life, but there are levels in that game that I've played maybe twice, and that's counting over the weekend while we were playing it. And man, I don't know what we would have done without save states. We wouldn't have done it. We would have stopped.
we wouldn't have done it.
We wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because I also remember having a ton of extra lives at all times.
yeah.
And we were like barely hanging on with 0 or like 1. When we had 2 extra lives, we were like, we did it.
Yeah. USA, USA. We were also, it was the two of us and Sarah, my girlfriend, playing
Mhm.
together. And so we had originally stated that we were going to switch off lives and levels. But that, kind of devolves quickly when someone dies immediately after like walking into a level. But it means that like the second you're kind of like getting the hang of something and like dying and learning, that you hand the controller off to someone else and then you forget everything you learned by the time it comes back around to you. So I think that slowed us up too.
Oh, totally.
I also have played a lot of Dr. Mario.
That feels weird to me. I don't know. I mean, I guess I knew you'd like Tetris a
Mhm.
lot, but yeah.
I mean, I knew that I liked Dr. Mario. And I really like Wario's Woods. I think that's an underappreciated, Nintendo puzzle dropping the blocks on the what's this Tetris style game, I guess. But like I fell deep into Dr. Mario. Saturday morning, I woke up early, maybe even before 6. I think just kind of like reflexively, because that's when I normally wake up during the week. And I played until Sarah got up at like 9. And then she watched me play for a little bit and was giving me a hard time about making bad decisions under fire. And I was like, "Fine, you play." And I went, I went somewhere. And when we met up at 1:00 in the afternoon, she had been playing that whole time. So like, I played for 3 hours in the morning. She played for 3 more hours. We've got so much Dr. Mario time between the two of us right now. It's insane.
No, you guys played together a little bit too,
Yeah,
right?
mhm.
But you were able, and we'll talk again. I'm hooking you.
That's right.
We're going to talk about more about it later. But you were only able to get like the control. You weren't able to buy an extra controller.
That's
so you've
right.
been using your Wii,
The Wii
Classic
Classic controller. Yes.
and that is. Is there a way that you could use a regular Wiimote? Is there like an
No.
adapter or something, even like a third-party adapter you could?
I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have to be like a male-to-male
Right.
Wii remote accessory
Right.
cord. And even then, it would have the console would have to know to accept it.
It just seems weird that they chose the Wiimote plug
It's very weird.
because you can't use the only product you can use is the Wii Classic. The
Yeah.
Wii, yeah, is that what it's called? The Pro?
And it's
Pro?
not the Pro. I think it's just the Classic controller. I
That-
could be
yeah.
wrong on that, but
And then I don't even think you can buy those anymore. So it just feels so weird to me that that's what they chose.
It's a strange choice. I was really hopeful that I could use just the nunchuck, like just plug it in, because it has 2 buttons and a joystick. It wouldn't have
Oh, I
start or
guess that's
select,
true.
but
Yeah.
no, I had this grand fantasy of playing 2-player Bubble Bobble by myself with 2 nunchucks.
Oh yeah, with 2 nunchucks, that'd be perfect.
It'd be a mind trip. It'd
Yeah.
be crazy. But that didn't happen. I am also playing now Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
I started that for the first time, like really, like
Yeah.
determined to play it.
Yeah. How is it going for you?
I don't love it so far.
How far are you?
Like not very. Like
Okay.
I've maybe played like half an hour, so I haven't like really sat and dug into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like the combat feels bad.
Oh man, the combat is so good, Mark. When you get into like fighting the Dark Nuts and like other any character that has a sword and shield,
Mhm.
it reveals how deep the combat system in there is, because they're, even it's so simple between like a jumping attack, a normal standing attack, and a low attack, and everyone guards differently.
Yeah. It feels, I guess, similar to how we like Castlevania 2, in that, in my opinion, it feels too ambitious for what the hardware is capable of doing.
I think that's definitely true in a lot of ways. Going into a town and talking to someone and knowing that they can only fill up 1 box of text, and it's a weird little square, and so they're like, you can tell the people in the proto treehouse or whatever it was back in the day were like, I don't know, we've got 40 characters. It's to just figure this out.
Well, and people say that I need to crack open the PDF manual you can download, because Zelda 1 throws you out there. The original Legend of Zelda throws you out there, and you don't really have much direction.
Right, but it also doesn't require that much direction. It's like context free.
But the Legend of Zelda 2 is crazy difficult, because it's like you have no idea. It feels like so much trial and error, and I'm not enjoying that aspect of it. And so I don't know if I need to, if there's like I don't want to look up a guide, but I don't know if there's a map that's included in the manual or something. It just feels so like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do.
It's interesting because they're like, in every town there's one person who needs you to do something, and it's hard to determine, like, to separate townspeople being like, when you get to the rock, go north, from the person who's like, I don't know where my family trophy is. And like that's a signifier, like, find the trophy, bring her the trophy, you'll learn a magic spell. And every town has someone like that, that sends you on like a fetch quest, but it's almost an invisible fetch quest because it's just not made clear.
And I like genuinely just find it very difficult, the like slowness with which the text like appears and everything. It's just like, I don't have the I don't know. I need to give it more time, but I'm having a real difficult time embracing this game.
Well, fair enough, Mark. That's we don't all have to love everything. And I love this, and that's you don't. I guess you don't have to.
Great, because I don't know that I do.
Mark, let's move on to the news.
So we're going to be talking about scarcity and Nintendo for our main topic this week, but it's topical because if you were
in the news.
If you were looking for an NES Classic Edition and you were not able to grab one, you were not alone.
No, you are in good company, I would say.
So the difference between the Amiibo shortages and the Classic Edition shortages is that Nintendo actually acknowledged them. Nintendo of America took to Twitter and they said, we know this is a hot item. We're going to be shipping more throughout the holiday season in the new year.
It's almost more we have discovered that this was a hot item.
Kind of, yeah. It feels that way. So they gave no concrete details. It's probably going to be like every other Nintendo product where if you really want one, you're going to have to check, like every store in your town or city on a regular basis, and there's no rhyme or reason to when they're
Yep.
going to show up.
And you might see lines outside of stores that have there's no
None.
evidence of there being a new shipment of them.
I guess GameStop, like online between when it launched
Mhm.
and or like when they were initially doing orders and like this past weekend, they got like a mystery couple of other, like new,
just
it
like
was
another
available for
shipment of them.
sale again. So who knows? The word online, so take that for the potentially nothingness it's worth,
Right.
is that after Black Friday, like starting into December, is when stores are.
Interesting.
That's apparently what, like, when people have asked their Best Buys or their like Walmarts in Canada and other places, that what they've been told by their Nintendo reps is to expect them after Black Friday, which seems bonkers to me, but
Yeah, but also like if it's in the store for Black Friday, who cares? Like
yeah, that's
they're
true.
going
I'm
to
not
sell
gonna get one
anyway.
anyways.
The interesting thing to note is that no one is including Nintendo NES Classic Editions in their Black Friday mailers.
Yeah.
No one, because they should not expect to get them at that time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not sad that they're not showing up on Black Friday, because if they were, they're going to be gone
Yeah, exactly.
almost immediately
Yeah.
again, and I would have even less of a chance of getting one because I don't do,
Right.
Yeah.
Also, what would be the point of marking it down? It's already only $60,
Right.
which is basically nothing.
Well, I mean, I just
for
think
30
having it
games.
there on Black Friday, even if they're
Yeah.
not going to mark it down, because none of the Black Friday ads seem to have anything very compelling if you're a Nintendo fan.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, even though this is exciting, there aren't. Well, we will get to a Nintendo item. Let's keep cruising through the news.
Okay, great. So last week, Nintendo denied that they were ending Wii U production. This week, they're saying they just like announced it. They're like, the Wii U's production is coming to an end.
Right. So let's trace the whole thing.
Mhm.
So last week we heard a rumor.
Well, a news story.
Sure.
I think on like
Yeah.
Kotaku or
I think Kotaku may have busted it, but
Oh, okay.
there was a news story. You're right.
yeah, that was like
yeah.
It's ending, and then Nintendo came out and denied it.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later or a week later, they come back and they weren't. It wasn't a correction. It was just like a news item.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I mean is still sort of correct in that the original story was ending last week, and now
Right.
they're just saying ending soon.
Yeah.
This is both in Japan and the U.S. So this doesn't affect your choice to purchase or not purchase a Wii U. But just know, yeah, they're going to be done printing them soon.
Mm-hmm. So there is a new 3DS bundle coming out on November 25th. So this is in time for Black Friday.
It
that
is Black Friday.
And it'll cost $99.99, which is only $20 more than a 2DS.
Which is pretty remarkable, yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes in 2 colors, like black or white. And even though they're calling it a bundle, or we're calling it a bundle,
I think they're calling it a bundle too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No games.
no games.
Mark, I think this is a great deal.
I think so too. I mean, I think the 3DS in general is a great deal.
Mhm.
Let me walk that back. I think the 2DS and this are a great deal. I would
Yes.
not pay at this stage in its life, unless you are somebody who has looked at the 3DS's library of games and is like, oh, there are a lot of games on here I need to play because I'm not going to have the opportunity to play them on Switch. Then I would say, like,
Pokemon.
right.
Right.
Like paying, like buying. But again, I just don't know at this point that I would pay more than $100 for a 3DS.
Sure. I mean, but I think it is worth the cost difference between the 2DS and this. I feel like it is worth it for the upgrade to this, just for the increased
Speed.
Yeah, for the increased speed and also just the ability to close it.
Oh, yeah.
This is also the first time that the regular size new 3DS is available without a game bundled to it. And also seems like it's going to be available everywhere. there was the Super Mario 3D Land bundle.
Right, the like lime green one.
No, the lime green one was
Oh,
XL,
and that's
and that had Super
World.
Mario
Yeah.
World. But the 3D Land one was like a Target and Walmart exclusive, and it was also like $50 more than this.
And there's an
or
Animal
something like that.
Crossing one, right?
There was an Animal Crossing one. I feel like that's in short supply now. So I mean, who knows? And was also cost a bunch of money and came with Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer
Right.
in there, which like maybe you're into that, maybe you're not. Weird if you're like $40 into it, but whatever.
Well, so these are $99, and we're in rumor territory now.
Dun, 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 dun.
But we should get a soundbite of Highway to the Danger Zone for when we do rumors.
But should we change it to the rumor zone?
Yeah, we should
Okay,
definitely do that.
All right, good. Next time it'll happen.
So there was a page on Toys R Us Canada.
Yes.
That had it listed for
now mark
the
it
Switch for
there
the
we
Switch
go.
for the Nintendo Switch at $329.99 Canadian dollars, which comes to about $250 US dollars.
Which that's where you and I were, right?
Yeah, that's what we were saying was like a sweet spot. So then after that, and I think that's been taken down at this point.
Oh yeah.
But after that happened, like there's kind of like a flood of Switch pricing rumors from thus far very reliable sources.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that it would be that Game, which is I think the largest gaming retailer in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
maybe all of Europe, is going to be pricing it at £199, which would signal that it'll be about $250
Sure.
in the US.
Just given comparable price.
And,
yeah.
And that Nintendo would be doing the two SKUs again. So the entry one would be we'll just say for simplicity's sake $250 US. Then the second one would be $300 US.
Sure, with like more memory or
or like the rumor again is a pack-in game of some kind, and probably more memory as well. Maybe who knows?
Mark, do you think that pack-in game is going to be Zelda?
No, I don't, because the other rumor that's kind of like breaking today is that Mario's finished. Mario Switch is like pretty much good to go.
Like it's up on the board, ready to ship.
Yeah, and so will maybe be a launch title, and that Zelda is huge, like the largest game Nintendo has ever done.
Exciting.
And that it's taking them a really long time to polish it and get it ready, and so it may be I guess not technically delayed because they never said anything outside of 2017. We all just kind of assumed that it was going to be a Switch launch title. And now, like, maybe I'm still going to say that they are going to call it a Switch launch window title and that it'll come out in the summer.
Sure. And 10 years from now, when we're recording whatever 10-year from now podcasts look like, we'll say, was Zelda a launch game?
It was a launch window game for sure.
I remember getting it about when I think it was a launch game.
Hold on, let's put the tent up. It's a solar flare.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, so maybe it won't be there day one. But here's my question for you: is if it's delayed to, let's say, earliest summer, maybe even fall.
Okay.
Does it ever come out on the Wii U? If it does not come out day one with Switch in March, does it ever come out on the Wii U?
I think first of all, I think that train is already like left the station, that it's already designed to work on both these platforms.
Well, sure.
So like if it just comes down to like, are they printing it on Wii U discs? I'm going to say yeah.
Even if it comes out.
Well, okay, I can imagine a scenario. Here's the scenario I could imagine.
Okay.
That the Switch comes out and it sells millions and millions of copies. The thing is a blockbuster success, and then they look at their the bases here, and they're like, well, we'll have better luck selling it on the Switch than on the Wii U. But like, because there is an install base, it's not a big one, but like people do have as many Wii U's as they're ever gonna have right now. So I don't know. I think it'll still come out on both platforms.
I think if it comes out in, I think you're probably right. I think it maybe depends on, like you're saying, if the Switch sells like amazingly,
Yeah.
then they may be like, it's not worth it. But if
But-
if it just sells like, like, because let's say it sells 10 million in the first year, so by like holiday 2017, and let's say that Zelda got delayed to holiday 2017, at 10 million Switch, you're talking about the install base. You're basically the install base of the Wii U.
10 million is a lot to sell in the first year, though.
I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
I think that's what they want to do in their first fiscal year.
Sure.
So that'd be from like March to March, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Would be 10 million. I don't know. I guess like
here's my just quick thing though, that like I feel like in the name of like goodwill and following through on what they promise, I think Nintendo has to deliver this thing on the Wii U.
Okay, but would you see a scenario where they have it be digital only on the Wii U?
No.
Okay.
But I think just because Nintendo's so in love with physical copies of stuff, like they're that's part of like their DNA, is like having the physical thing. Plus, it'll be bundled with an amiibo, Mark. Like it'll
That's
come
true.
with an amiibo for sure. Yeah, I can't see it being digital only. If they have the retail channels in place to stock the rest of their stuff, they'll have that going out too. Plus, I'm sure there'll still be room on the shelves for Just Dance 2017, which will be out on the Wii U as well. So
well, and maybe everybody should just buy a Wii U copy, physical copy anyway, and hold on to it, because maybe they just won't print that many of them. It'll become a collector's item.
There you go. It'll be a collector's item.
So Miitomo,
yeah, you bet,
is getting a large update.
Yeah,
or already got a large update. I think it got a large update because I saw yesterday that it's featured on the Apple App Store's homepage again.
Yes,
like Miitomo's featured on there. So it has private messages. So you can send private messages to friends. Room customization. You can decorate your room. Each like spot for you to put something up is a microtransaction of 99 cents.
Yeah. I was messing around with it a little bit today, which is the first time I've opened Miitomo in weeks. And I kind of quickly got to the point where I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I don't do this.
Well, so it says that it's
fun.
easier to use. What in your experience does that mean?
I don't know. It's still slower than I expect it to be. And I'm still like hitting a brick wall where no one in my circle or my social media circles are playing it anymore. So like all of the people that it shows up that like I've sent friend requests to, just a couple weeks ago when I really first started playing Miitomo, haven't accepted because they haven't. I'm assuming here, haven't logged on to the thing to see that they have these friend requests.
Yeah.
Or I'm largely unpopular and no one wants to be my Miitomo friend, even though that's the whole point of Miitomo.
Well, the thing I found with Miitomo when I downloaded it, set it up, and was like, this is absolutely not for me, is how like unfriendly it is to use.
Yeah, and I mean it still has a lot of I think those same problems.
I think it's so opaque. Like I like booted it up, made my answered like its questions, and then I was like, what do I do? And there was no guidance.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to like figure out how to send like friend requests. It was so hard to like figure out how to do anything. I was like, this is absolutely not worth the effort.
Yeah.
And that was kind of shocking to me.
That it's just that
it was so unuser friendly. I expected it to be very like Nintendo would guide you through the whole thing. So they're just kind of like, here's Miitomo, and then
Good luck.
Yeah.
Hope you have fun with this somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure for the people who use it, it's great, and I'm sure it's making. I hope Nintendo learned a lot from it. Is basically what I'm saying.
I hope so too.
I think like the most exciting news and something I'm definitely getting on board with is the My Nintendo Holiday Sweepstakes.
Oh my gosh. Me too. I filled out this the contest survey, whatever it is, this morning. If you have a My Nintendo account, you should head on over to the Nintendo website and fill this thing out before 2:00
Pacific time on November 21st,
Mm-hmm.
and you're entering to win one of 4 prize packages. So the Super Mario prize package is a Super Mario 3D Land Edition new Nintendo 3DS, plus some codes for Mario Party Star Rush, Super Mario Maker 3DS, and a Mario Amiibo.
Now, I want to just mention something about the Mario Amiibo.
Great.
It says that it's from the Super Mario series, but the Mario from the Super Mario series is like regular looking cartoony Mario, but they have a picture of the 8-bit Mario from Mario Maker. I don't know which is correct.
Right.
It would be more exciting if it's the Mario Maker one, but who knows?
That would make sense if it's the Mario Maker one.
But I don't. We don't know if Mario Maker on 3DS is going to have amiibo functionality. We know that it doesn't have all the mystery mushrooms, which are what the amiibos unlocked in the Wii U version of Mario Maker. So I don't know.
Sometimes when we're talking about Amiibo, it's like another language to me.
Yeah,
It's like,
sure.
I don't know what any of this means.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's not your fault. It's my fault for being ignorant. But it's just like mystery mushrooms, and I'm like nodding, like
The mystery mushrooms are mushrooms that go in blocks in Mario Maker levels that transform you into a different Nintendo character, and there are over 100 of them, and you unlock new mystery mushrooms by tapping Amiibo. So like I've got a Boo and a Mega Man sitting on my entertainment center right now. I can tap those into Mario Maker and get a mushroom that's a little Mega Man and a mushroom that's a little Boo.
And do they follow the art style of whatever like version of Mario you're doing?
They're only available in the Mario 1 template.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a sidetrack, so maybe it's a topic for another time. But I wonder if Nintendo has usage statistics for like Amiibo in certain games, because it has to be so much work.
Yeah.
To like to create 100 characters in the Mario 1 style.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're like, I wonder if they have statistics to be like, oh, this is a worthwhile investment of our time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Right.
Who? No one. That's just one of
that's one of 4 prize packages.
Let's keep going.
The second one
Mark,
is the Pokemon prize package.
Mm-hmm. It's got the new 3DS XL with the Pokemon branding on it.
Oh, okay.
And copies of both Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Which is weird.
This is superfluous.
Yeah.
But
you get them both.
The third one is the Legend of Zelda prize package. It has that cool like Galaxy style new Nintendo 3DS XL, plus the Legend of Zelda Triforce Lite, plus the Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, and then a Link 8-bit amiibo.
Right. So the Triforce Lite is like an actual light. It's like a lamp that looks like a Triforce.
Oh, that's cool.
So like they're just tossing that one in there.
And then the Animal Crossing prize package has a new Nintendo 3DS Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer bundle.
There we go.
This is the one we talked about. The regular. Yep.
We've talked about most of these bundles already today.
Animal Crossing New Leaf. And then 6 packs of Animal Crossing amiibo cards plus an Isabelle amiibo. Patrick, which one would you want to win?
Well, let's see. I own a lot of this already. Okay, let's say I had none of this. I would want the Mario one.
Yeah, and I think I would hope for the Legend of Zelda prize package.
Which is a pretty cool prize package too.
I want that lamp.
Yeah, that lamp.
Give me that lamp.
Cool. Mark, I think you can probably just go buy the lamp.
Yeah, but I'm not going to. But if it's given to me, then I'll use it.
Hey, Mark, that's a great point.
I guess really, there's one We should talk about new releases this week.
Let's talk new releases.
And there's one major one. It's the seismic activity you're feeling, the rumbling is Pokemon Sun and Moon getting closer on Friday, November 18th.
That was us being swallowed by a solar flare.
Yeah. It's happening.
Yeah, it is certainly happening. I've got it preloaded on my new Nintendo 3DS XL.
Yeah, how was your preload experience?
Slow.
Was it
Yeah.
as... I mean, I guess it's probably just like it is buying anything else from the store, from the eShop.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredibly big game.
Yeah. No, I meant like the purchasing experience, which I would rate as like kind of annoying, but
Yeah,
serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The pre-order button or like it's on the home screen, so like it's really easy to get to it. Like as soon as you go to the store, it's one of the immediately evident options.
Because let's just say that like I dread having to go into the eShop.
Okay,
I just find it really.
Let's say that.
I just find it really user unfriendly. Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I have yet to find a video game store that I do find friendly.
Yeah, that's true. It's so weird.
Yeah,
that like nobody can get it right.
Yeah, no one can crack it.
Because the PS4 is awful as well.
Yeah, no good. And the Wii U is almost identical to the 3DS.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. And then trying to find a game that you want to play on the iPhone is also a disaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There just is no good way. Buying things is hard. Choice is hard, Mark.
I just mean discoverability. I think is really low on all these platforms. When you were preloading it, just purely out of curiosity, did you wait for it? Like, did you watch the little droplets get dropped into the square, or did you download later?
No, I always do download now. Because when I am like, I'm gonna buy this thing, I'm never like, I'm gonna buy this thing and then play games for a little while. Like I'm turning it on to buy the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned it on, said download now, watched it drop little gems into a box that would become a present. And then did something else. And thank goodness, because it was over an hour later when it had finally all loaded on to my new 3DS XL.
I need to do that.
Are you gonna go digital on it, or are you gonna go?
I'm gonna go digital.
Okay.
I have gone digital for all of my 3DS titles, I think, except for one or two.
Yeah.
I think only one. I think Link Between Worlds is the only one I bought.
Which is the only one in my house, and it's your copy of it.
Which is so weird because I've also gone purely digital on my PS4 this generation. Yeah.
It's just so easy to go all digital. I am nowhere near digital on the Wii U. I have just like a couple games digitally. Because it doesn't have a lot of space on there. So.
Well, the other thing is that for the 3DS, for some reason, even though I've enjoyed the console, I kind of view it in my own life as kind of like a throwaway console.
Sure, like a transitional thing.
Yeah,
almost,
I think right now, and maybe I'll be regretting this in like 3 or 4 years, I don't see it as a console I'm going to come back to.
I know that it is a console I'm going to come back to.
Yeah, so then I think so for me, like buying digital, if I like was really
like really trying to future proof it,
then I would probably buy physical. But
when I bought mine, I bought an extra large micro SD card and like did something to it. Like I looked it up. I think it's the 128 one. Like looked up the thing too, because otherwise that's too big for the system. You have to like trick it into thinking that it's 264s or something. And so like I did all this stuff to make sure that it could read this thing, and then I would just be able to load it up and never think about how much I'm saving onto this thing.
That's smart.
And I've never looked back, and I just keep spending money on it. So Pokemon Sun and Moon. Mark, I think it's time for us to move out of the news. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's 4:33. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 4 minutes and 33 seconds, wherein a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 4:33, Mark and I will talk about something not Nintendo related, effectively not playing our instruments. So, Mark, I believe you had a topic you wanted to discuss today for 4:33.
Yeah, where do you buy your shoes?
My shoes?
Mhm.
Let's see. I do. The orchestra that's accompanying us is tuning at the moment. Shoes are usually incidental to me, but I like to go to the DSW, Discount Shoe Warehouse.
Where is that?
So it's at Hollywood and Highland. Which I know. I know there's a little bit of a recoil there.
Yeah.
But the store itself is surprisingly empty.
I just think getting there seems like
Getting
a
there's
huge hassle.
Yeah, it's not great, but there is a parking garage over there that if you validate, it is like $3 or something. It does mean navigating Hollywood and Highland for any length of time, which is obviously too much. But they've got a big clearance section, and DSW has like a sticker system where after a week it's they're 40% off, 50% off, and so I end up getting most of my shoes pretty inexpensively at DSW. Mark, where do you get your shoes?
So my shoes for me are also like incidental.
Yeah.
They're about like function.
Yes.
And
you're wearing some nice shoes now, right?
These are my boyfriend's that I'm wearing because he's out of town.
Very good.
And
where does he get his shoes?
I don't know. He actually has a sense of style, so
Mm-hmm.
he shops at like real stores.
Mm-hmm.
I usually go to Nordstrom Rack. I actually
sure.
think you get really like good shoes at Nordstrom Rack. But my problem is that I never think about like shoes, like buying shoes or clothes until I absolutely need to.
Yes.
And at this point, it's come to where it's like, oh, why do my feet and back always hurt? It's like, oh, because these shoes I've been wearing like every day for a year are just broken. I'm wearing broken shoes. So I've reached that point where like basically once a year I'm like, I need to buy new shoes because I hurt all the time.
Right. Let me ask you this. You and I were talking about running this weekend. How frequently do you purchase a new pair of running shoes?
I guess I haven't been running that often recently, so I haven't put that many like miles on it. But I'm going to start training for a half marathon, and so I will probably buy new shoes now, so that way, and I'll probably throw them away after the half marathon.
Okay. I am so bad about, because you're supposed to, if you're running regularly, replace them every like 3 months or something.
Really? That
Yeah,
often?
it's surprising. Maybe it's every 4.
No, but that's a lot. So it's like
lot.
when you throw out your toothbrush, you just throw out your running shoes too?
I guess so, yeah. I'm done with this, and I'm done with these. But yeah, no, I know I am wearing running shoes like too long. But I also like I don't know that I feel bad in the shoes when it's like late in their lifespan.
Right.
How many pairs of shoes do you own right now, do you think?
Myself?
Yeah.
I own running shoes. One pair of running shoes. One like dress shoes for if somebody dies and I have to go to a funeral.
One dress shoes.
One dress shoes. Funeral or job interview shoes. And a pair of sneakers that I bought from H&M and hate, so I never wear them, but I still have them. And then another pair of shoes from H&M that I bought and like a lot and wear practically every day. Now, if we count my boyfriend's shoes, the door opens a lot.
What a cool like life hack there.
We have the same size shoes. It's
wear
amazing.
Your boyfriend's shoes. That's great. I can't wear any of Sarah's shoes.
I also get like hand-me-down clothes when he's like, oh, I can't. I'm too big for these. I can't wear these anymore.
Give those
like shirts. So it's like I have new shirts. It's great.
That does sound great. Yeah, I had a pair. Do I still have this pair of shoes? I may still have this pair of shoes. They're like blue and gray, and I got them from Old Navy of all places. Um, which if you buy shoes at Old Navy, expect them to fall apart quickly.
Sure.
But they're really cool and have like a like yellow and brown lace. Like lace is. It's not like frilly. I'm not describing these shoes well, Mark. But I just always liked them, and I would get frequent compliments on them, which is fun. Do you have a pair of shoes that you like getting compliments on, like a pair that you're proud of?
No, I mean not currently. Like the shoes I got from H&M that I wear basically every day are high tops, and they're
Yeah.
black, and they are Velcro.
I like those shoes.
And people love the Velcro. They're
Right.
cool, and they were like $20.
Right.
So those are the ones I probably get like the most compliments on, because one of my friends like purposefully bought Velcro shoes because he was like, I saw your Velcro shoes, and I was like, those are cool. I should get Velcro shoes.
That's cool. You're a trendsetter, Mark.
Oof, this is a lot of pressure for me.
Well, I'm sorry. You're a tastemaker. People want Velcro shoes so they can be cool like Mitchell.
Yeah. I don't. Well, the reason I. Oh, well, there we go.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, and then that is the end of 433. Today we were accompanied by I've lost that information. We were accompanied by someone. We were accompanied by the K2 Orchestra. It's a Japanese orchestra. If you have a recording of 433 that you would like us that you would like to have accompany us on this segment, you can send us the video to Nintendo Cartridges. Whoa! Oh no! Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
Also, if you want to tell us where you buy your shoes,
yeah, we'd love to know.
I genuinely would love to know. I would also love to know if you have found those spoilers for the M. Night Shyamalan movie Split, which is opening real soon, and I'm not going to see it, but I'm hoping to get spoilers before the movie comes out, and then it's easily Googleable.
Right. We're having a tough time getting through some basic words.
Man.
You can send those spoilers to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Mark, let's move on to 433. Which brings us to our topic, the show, our topic of the week, our topic for right here, for right now, for the next half hour or so.
Right here, right now.
Highway to the danger zone. Rumor Zone. I would try to sing something from the Fleetwood Mac album Rumors, but I don't know what's on that record. But we are talking about scarcity, or the myth of artificial scarcity, this thing that Nintendo gets hit with every time they release hardware. Not all hardware, but a lot of Nintendo products are harder to get at their launch than it seems like they should be.
Yeah.
Case in point, most recent case, of course, the Nintendo NES Classic Edition sold out everywhere within minutes of stores opening.
Just like crazy. And I was anticipating that it would have lines. I was not anticipating. I was thinking like, oh, like 5 people, like the diehards.
Yes.
And impossible to get in store, impossible to get online. And
man, were you on like Amazon trying to get it at 2 o'clock?
I was at work, and we should really talk about you because this is the least interesting part.
No, let's.
I was at work, and we had talked, and like it had been brought up. The NES Classic Edition had been brought up, and so me and 2 of my coworkers were just like furiously refreshing at 2 o'clock, trying to get
F5,
just like
F5.
completely like not a chance in the world. The night before, like basically crashed Amazon. Amazon was having problems the night before. Target, Best Buy, or Target, GameStop, like all their websites were basically inoperable for a short amount of time as people just like attacked it, refreshing, trying to add things to their cart. It's just been a mess.
It's a virtual bloodbath, really.
Yeah, well, and a physical like mess as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was all very orderly. So
Right.
I took Friday off because I was like, I'm gonna get one of these for sure, no matter what. And so my plan was to go to the West Hollywood. There's a shopping center where there's a Target, a Best Buy, and a GameStop. And I was like, great, I'll go there. If I strike out one place, surely I'll be able to get them other places, and I may be able to pick up multiples.
Ha 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 ha.
Little did I know,
Yeah.
it was such wishful thinking. And so I had woken up again. I wake up early in the morning, so it was before 6 o'clock, and I get a text from a friend of mine in Milwaukee saying that he saw lines in front of GameStop on his way to work, and I was like, "Uh-oh, this is going to be a thing." So this is again pre 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, okay, I need to change my plan. I need to get to a Target. Target's open at 8 o'clock as soon as possible. So I poke my head into the bedroom and tell Sarah, I'm going to Target. I'll text you later. Because our plan was like to spend the day together getting one of these things and playing it. And so I had moved up our timeline, and so I head to the Target in Glendale, where there is before 7 o'clock there is already a line of about 10 people. And I join this line, and they move us from the ground floor up to like this bridge walkway into the second floor of the Target, where we wait, and the line gets longer and longer and longer. At some point, maybe around 7:30, a stock boy is like coming out, and like he's heading home. Had probably worked like overnight or something. I don't know what Target shifts are. Why would I know that? But he's just like, "You guys waiting for the NES Classic?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he says, "We have 55," and then scurries away. And so me sitting number 11 at this point, I'm like, yes, I'm getting one of these things. Yes, victory. I got it. And if they have 55, I'm definitely getting an extra controller. Like, no way am I not going to get an extra controller. So this line grows. By the time it's 8 o'clock, there are over 100 people in this line. And we've known that there are only 55.
Yeah, why do people keep waiting?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think maybe they don't believe the number. It's no longer coming from an official source. It's just us at the front of the line.
Right.
But what do they think? We're like lying to them? Something? Anyway, they end up letting us into the store 10 people at a time. It's a very controlled thing, right? Like I said, I'm number 11, so I don't go in with with my compatriots in Alpha team. I had to lead Bravo team. So they're in there, they're paying for stuff, and then the guy's like, "Okay, next 10, go up." And as I'm going up the escalators, the first group is coming back down the escalators, and the guy who was like fourth or fifth in line, cool guy, was chatting with him earlier, was just like, they're out of controllers. They got 3 extra controllers for 55 systems. 3, which is not great. But I ended up getting my system, and meanwhile, Sarah had woken up. I had alerted her to what was happening, and so she hightailed it to the West Hollywood Shopping Center. Tried to get in line at the Target, but by the time she got there, over 100 people in line.
And that Target got
86.
Yeah, and I'll just like to interject real fast because I was working I worked on Friday, and but I saw that they were getting 86, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just leave a few minutes early and like get there at like 8:30, and like, because there's no way there's going to be 100. There's no way there's going to be more than like 20 people in line for this.
Yeah.
So when I saw
there definitely were.
So when I saw your text early in the morning, I was like, oh
yeah, all of my don't text people too early in the morning rules went right out the window. Because I was like, everyone needs to know what's going on. Yeah, so well over 100 people in this line. And so Sarah very wisely decided to abandon Target and go to the Best Buy, which wouldn't open for another 2 hours. And at this point starts the line. Sarah's number 1. Great job, Sarah.
yeah.
But by the time I get, I drop off the NES Classic at home, and I drive to West Hollywood so I can stand in line with Sarah. And by the time I get there, there are over 50 people in this line.
And how many did that Best Buy get?
35.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time and then when I get there, it's before 9 o'clock still. So like we're still waiting in line for another hour. And it's like if you're familiar with this Best Buy in West Hollywood, like it's the sidewalk is like right out in the sun. It was a hot morning. So I went up to the Target, which had been open now for 2 hours or whatever, and got like a case of bottled water and like some granola bars, and just Santa Claused them out to the line. And because like it's a line experience.
Yeah.
Everyone's too hot or hungry or thirsty or whatever. So I did a good thing and made everyone a little bit happier in the line, and sat with Sarah while we waited for the store to open.
And there's a GameStop just like a few storefronts down from
Yeah.
that Best Buy.
Mhm.
And there was a line there too, right?
Yes.
Like even that one also opens at 10. So
Yeah.
there was no line at Best Buy, but there was a huge line at the Target and a line at the GameStop.
Right. And by the time the Best Buy opened, there were also 100 people, at least 100 people in that line. Like it went all the way down to the corner there and around. It was
How many
nuts.
controllers at the Best Buy?
Oh, the Best Buy with their 35 systems had 0 extra controllers.
So
This was the scene everywhere.
this was yeah.
And so if you weren't maniacally staked out at a store hours before it opened, that's all literal, by the way,
Mhm.
At least an hour before the store opened, you weren't going to get one of these things. That's an unrealistic expectation.
Oh, absolutely. Two things.
Yes.
One, do you think it was a mistake to do it on Veterans Day when a lot of people had work off? Right? Do you think the lines would have been shorter if more people had to work?
No, I don't think so.
I guess it's LA. People don't work.
That's right.
people,
That's right.
Enough people don't really have 9-to-5 jobs anyways.
Also, like for Target, store opens at 8 o'clock.
That's true. You could
do it and then go to work.
And then go to work. Second
question.
Well, I guess like we'll just get into it. Like, do you think Nintendo purposefully made not enough of these? Because what people cry when this happened with Amiibo. It happened with the Wii when it first came out. It happened briefly with the Wii U before people stopped wanting it.
Did it even happen with the Wii U?
I feel like it did in the first couple months.
Sure, okay.
To get the deluxe one, the black one.
Oh, that
was
is true.
harder.
That was
to
in
get.
shorter supply.
And the people cry like, oh, like Nintendo is doing this purposefully, like they're creating artificial scarcity to increase demand. Do you think that is true or not true?
I don't think that is true. I think we're witnessing a couple things happening. One is that Nintendo Japan has a hard time understanding the American audience's appetite for their products. They just don't understand like the American Nintendo collector. I think this is most clearly demonstrated with Amiibo. They released with the like first couple rounds of Smash Amiibo. They had ultra rare characters and a lot of store exclusives, so that if you wanted Rosalina, you had to get her at Target or Amazon or wherever it was. And some were exclusive to GameStop, some were exclusive to Walmart. So it like I don't think they anticipate that people want to collect everything. I think they just think someone wants to get a couple Amiibo and put them on their shelves. And I think the same thing is true with the NES Classic, that they don't anticipate everyone wanting it right when it comes out. They see this, we mentioned that they are going to be restocking them from now until Christmas and beyond, no doubt. And I'm sure that they see that as like close enough, that like people are going to get it within this window, and just not understanding that release day fervor, that there are going to be lines.
Yeah. Well, do you think that how limited limited do you think this is going to be? Because I agree, like a year from now, is Nintendo going to be still manufacturing new NES Classic Editions, or is this something that they're maybe going to do one or two more runs of, and then after the holidays they'll basically be done
Put it to
making?
bed.
Yeah,
It's a good question.
like it will be limited.
I think that depends on what their plans are for the future of the classics line. Like there's very clear classics branding on these boxes, which implies that there will be more machines like this. And so I mean, if they just do like a sequel that has 20 more games on it, I could see them retiring the first generation. But I think they'll be putting these out. They can't like slow down on it now, right? Like it's obviously such an in-demand product.
Well, I
I
think
don't know, what are your thoughts there?
well, I think it depends, because I agree with you that I don't think they artificially didn't make enough of these.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they purposefully made a small first batch to drive up demand, because Nintendo doesn't really benefit right now from people not being able to purchase these systems.
Right. Or from the like second seller market.
Right.
Like someone reselling one for $300 doesn't net Nintendo any more money.
The only argument I think you could reasonably make for Nintendo purposefully doing this is that what they want to do with this first run that people can't get is create this sense of urgency.
Mhm.
So when they release more of them later, people aren't like, oh, I can just pick this up anytime. They're like, I see it, I'm going to purchase it now.
The thing is, this product specifically is such an impulse item anyway.
Right.
Like it already has impulse purchase like printed on the box.
Well, I don't agree with that line of
Yeah,
thought,
sure,
but I
sure.
think that's like the only argument you could make for them
Yeah.
making it scarce, because again, they do not benefit from
Yeah.
from supply not meeting demand.
I think, and Mark, help me like kind of logic my way through this one. I think it's possible that Nintendo simply doesn't have the either like financial resources or some other like relationship with shippers or manufacturers or something that someone like Sony or Microsoft does, because both Sony and Microsoft are in the business of making and distributing hardware on a scale so much bigger than Nintendo. So much bigger, right? Between computers and televisions and all of that stuff, like their supply lines are just thicker and better stocked than Nintendo's ever were or ever will be.
Yeah, I mean, like you wanted a PS4 at launch, you could basically go into a store and buy a PS4. You wanted a PS4 Pro at launch, they're lousy with them.
Oh yeah, I mean first of all, it's funny that the Pro and the NES Classic come out within like a day of each other.
Yeah.
And you're in a line and someone is yelling at a cashier about not being able to get an NES Classic. Meanwhile, there are piles of PS4 Pros.
But I think you're right. I think it does come down to the logistics expertise, because Sony produces hardware, not just video game hardware, but hardware on like a scale
They make
so much
TVs.
exponentially,
They make
yeah, like
TVs.
exponentially larger. And it's an unfair comparison because Apple is probably the best company at logistics, like from an operational standpoint in the world, because they on launch weekend sell, I don't know, like 70 million iPhones.
Yeah.
So they have gotten their system perfect to the point that they can manufacture and ship for opening day in many countries.
Yes.
Like 70 million iPhones. And, so I do think part of it is just like Nintendo does not have they don't have the infrastructure. Chain. They don't have that is not something Nintendo has. The other part to it is, I don't think Nintendo, like you were saying with Amiibo, I don't think Nintendo really understands their audience. I genuinely think that the demand for the NES Classic Edition has caught them off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
Because my understanding is that, for example, the Famicom Mini was not an original plan. It wasn't until they had manufactured at least a test of the NES Classic Edition, they were like, oh,
Oh, do you think people might want this?
like the Famicom version of this, and so
And it boggles my mind that that's not something that they like. The Famicom Classic is probably something that there's a market for here as
I mean,
well.
even in quote unquote limited quantities,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah. So I think there are, yeah, in some ways, I think Nintendo just doesn't really fully understand
Mm-hmm.
its audience and like because, and I have no information. I'm projecting on this, but I could imagine a scenario where they're like, but most of these games are like available on the the Wii U Virtual Console, the Wii, like,
And the 3DS Virtual
and the
Console,
3DS Virtual Console. So it's like it's not like these games aren't attainable. So I could imagine a world where they're kind of caught off guard by it. Now, again, stores, um, Nintendo couldn't have been completely caught off guard because stores were putting in large pre-orders for this.
Yeah.
Like they would be like, "Oh, I'm going to pre-order 90 units because it's the holiday season, and
it's a
this is
perfect
going to be a
stocking
perfect
stuffer,
item.
yeah.
Like this is going to sell, right?" Like so, retailers and saw this, and so they were putting in like orders, like a small game store, independent game store might put an order for 90, and that's not unreasonable for the holidays, and they would get 5, right? But but they put their own pre-orders in from the distributor, and the distributor obviously like informed Nintendo of these orders. So Nintendo couldn't have been completely caught off guard because even if they didn't do consumer pre-orders, stores were putting in their, like orders.
Well, but so like here's the thing. I know there's not like a Nintendo factory. They farm these things out.
Right.
But like obviously Nintendo is continuing to make 3DS hardware in new vanilla 2DS and XL varieties. So they're printing a bunch of different handhelds already. Plus, they haven't stopped making Wii U's yet.
Right.
Soon, not
Right,
yet.
but not yet.
And they've got to be
Ramping up
churning
Switch.
out Switch. So, like, how much?
That's a good point. They may just not have the bandwidth to make more of these.
I wonder if this is something that we see go away with Nintendo collapsing their console line and the handheld line, so that they don't have to have production runs of 2 or 3 or 4 different like kinds of hardware at once. I mean, they're gonna keep making 3DSs, so maybe that.
Yeah, but
that's a
maybe
moot
they'll
point.
simplify the line. Like maybe when the Switch comes out, they'll have the 2DS and like the new 3DS, or maybe just the new 3DS XL. Maybe they'll like simplify the line, because I imagine when the Switch comes out, I'm imagining that the 3DS line gets a price drop, right? So like
I feel like it has been getting price drops for a while. So I mean the new 3DS for $100 is pretty great.
Right. And then like and then if the XL becomes like 100 and the new XL becomes like 150, if the Switch does launch at 250, that's like $100 price difference, which I think is like reasonable.
That's fair, yeah.
And so maybe they'll simplify that line. But yeah, that's a good point. It may just be purely like they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the infrastructure that like one of these larger companies do, and it's not like they have the muscle to like throw around. They're not like Apple, where they can like squeeze their suppliers for margins and be like, like Foxconn, who makes a lot of Nintendo products. If they have to choose between pumping out iPhones and iPads, and they have to, or like Wii U's, they're gonna be like, okay, Apple's way more valuable to us,
right?
And not that these factories are like interchangeable or right next to each other or anything, but just like theoretically,
Dude, run next door and print me a couple iPads.
Right. But and then here's the other thing is, yes, I think Nintendo could have sold more of these. Obviously they had them,
right?
But I think they have to be limited. I don't think this is something that they can churn out indefinitely. I think at some point, and it'll probably be after the holidays, I think at some point Nintendo has to put their just has to be like, okay, we're not making these anymore. And I think the reason they have to do that is because they don't want these they don't want to like devalue their games.
Sure, and not just their games, but like devalue the idea of a new piece of Nintendo hardware in your home,
right? Or just like Nintendo hardware in general, because like think how easy it is. Like you can go to pretty much any CVS or Rite Aid, and there's going to be a poorly constructed, Sega licensed,
Yeah.
like Genesis machine
With
that
like 50 games
with
on
like
it.
50 games. And so you see that and you're like, oh, like Sonic, those early Sonic games are worthless
Yeah.
because they are so easily attainable.
Right.
You can play them anywhere on any system at any moment. If I'm like, I want to play Sonic 2, I
You
can
can
go
do
to
it.
like,
Yeah.
I spend like $20 and I can get 50, like Genesis games.
You can get Altered Beast.
Yeah, you can get. I can't list more Genesis games.
Alex Kidd.
But like,
Is that a game?
yeah. But it is like it's so easy to do it, and it's driven the price so down, like down so low that they're basically trash. And they're not great systems. A lot of times the emulation is poor.
Right.
Like you're getting what you pay for, and so Sega has devalued the Sonic IP. Sega has devalued the value of Sonic
Of
2,
their nostalgia.
right?
Yeah.
And I think Nintendo, even if they're not necessarily aware of what their customers want, I think they are aware of the value of their IP. And like we and so many people hold Super Mario 3 and like Super Mario Brothers and a lot of the games that are on the NES Classic Edition, we hold those in like such high regard that I don't think Nintendo wants to drop that. I don't think Nintendo wants it to be, like Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 3 to become like Sonic and Sonic 2, where you're just like, oh, I can get this anywhere. I can buy it for 99 cents on the App Store, or I can buy it in this like NES Classic Edition that is, like in drugstore. I think they want to avoid that.
I mean, I think it does help that I'll say this just unilaterally that like all of these games are better than a Sonic game. Like Super Mario Brothers 3, in addition to being more carefully guarded with its distribution, even though you can play it on any Nintendo console basically, is just going to be a better game than anything that's going to be on that Genesis, that knockoff Genesis with 50 games.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. There are people who grew up with Sonic who,
I mean, I sort of did too, and I didn't love it as a kid, but like I played it a little bit, and I like those games okay. But like,
well, I'm not saying that they would necessarily argue that it's a better game,
sure.
but they might, like say that, oh, it's worth to
Right.
me like the same amount. And I think this opens up into an interesting discussion of what do you see the future of the virtual console being? Do we see it on the Switch? Or does Nintendo replace that with these like NES, these classic editions, this classics line?
Sure. I hope that's not the. I think they can live together. That there's something very appealing about having a package of all of these things together, and but there's still always going to be a market for buying games a la carte, and yeah, I think I want to see them side by side. I hope that they. I mean, I'm actually a little bit nervous just for the future of the virtual console in general. We don't know how much memory the Switch is going to have, and how realistic it is going to be to have, older games.
Well, older games, especially like NES games and even
they're,
SNES games,
they're
are
teeny tiny, yeah. But like, as we move forward in time, the definition of retro game gets newer and newer. There are, when we were talking to Fodl about his experience with Luigi's Mansion, he was experiencing it much earlier in his life than I was experiencing it in my life. And I'm sure there are people who are listening that Luigi's Mansion sounds like an old game to them, So yeah, I don't know. I think we have to be prepared for a future where the retro games, the virtual console games, are bigger file size. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be an issue with the Switch and its storage.
Yeah, I don't know. Even though I posed the question, I don't know that the Virtual Console goes away. But I
Mhm.
think Nintendo, I mean, partly just because the marketing of Switch is you can take your games with you, and so to be like, except for the games you could take with you, like on the
Yeah,
3DS, it seems like a weird mixed marketing
yeah, for
message.
sure.
But I do think Nintendo faces a lot of challenges going forward with the Virtual Console. Part of that is it's never been particularly well um, populated. Like it usually,
Mhm.
outside of the Nintendo standards,
Well, and I
there are
think
long droughts where things
yeah.
aren't being released on it.
Well, and I think this speaks to a point you were talking about before we started recording. So I'm just going to drive us to it right now. That there is a different virtual console for Wii than for Wii U than for 3DS. And Nintendo's moving towards this consolidated My Nintendo account. And if there is a system that unifies all of this, so that you're not waiting around, for, oh, okay, I bought Earthbound on one thing. Oh, good, now I can buy Earthbound on the 3DS as well. Um, One unified account system where you can buy a game and effectively just have the license to play it on Nintendo hardware.
Which would be similar to the Apple App Store idea
Mm-hmm.
and the Google Play Store idea where it's like, oh, I'm just going to buy this once, and theoretically for as long as I'm in this ecosystem, in the Apple ecosystem, in the Google ecosystem, in the Nintendo ecosystem, I will be able to play this game on all of my compatible devices. And I think this goes back to that idea of like Nintendo wanting to preserve the value of these games, is that this is what like gamers are saying that they want for the Switch store.
Mm-hmm.
One is like, I will buy it once and then with the promise that in the future I'll never have to, you won't make me buy it again. My
Yeah.
license will transfer. And one, that's like pretty unprecedented in games and really
In
in like
media. Yeah.
media. Um, I guess the closest argument you could get to is that uh, the Xbox One, Microsoft has started supporting
Backwards
backwards
compatibility. Yeah.
compatibility. So if you have the physical discs or whatever from the 360, or you bought it digitally, I think,
Yeah.
like they honor those licenses for as select titles that are continuing to grow.
Which is actually crazy for the if you have a disc, because it has to emulate it. You're basically downloading the version that's on the Xbox One
Right.
store. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
those are crazy hoops they're jumping through to make it happen.
But previously to this, it wasn't like, oh, you bought a DVD. Well, here's the Blu-ray for free.
Mhm.
Which is, I feel like, a fair comparison to what is being asked here, where it's like, oh, you bought it on the Switch. Well, then you automatically, you bought it on the Wii, then you
Right.
automatically get it on the Wii U, then you automatically, but people are feeling, I think it is some of this like App Store economy where people are feeling like nickeled and dimed a little bit, where
Yeah.
they're like, I bought it on the Wii U. Why do I have to buy it again on the Switch? And I do think that no matter what Nintendo does, that is going to happen. Like, you will just have to buy it again at
Yeah.
least one more time. But on these app stores,
Buy it again.
yeah,
One last time.
but on the Apple App Store specifically, I can't really speak to the Google Play Store as much. But developers are moving away from this idea of one-time purchase because it's so limiting. Even if you have a hit app,
Yeah.
and people are downloading it, let's say for like $1, and you get 10 million downloads the lifetime of your app, it's like, you are going to get 10 million, and maybe some more will trickle in over the year, but it's like really boom and bust.
Yeah.
Right? Your option in that case would be like to make a follow-up and hope that that app does as well, and that's not really a sustainable business model. So more and more people on the App Store are moving towards this idea of subscriptions, where it's either you download it for free, and Microsoft is too with Office, where it's like you either download it for free, download it for a small fee, and
or
then
you like lease the license,
and then
yeah.
every you pay for like 3 months or 6 months or 9 months to continue to use it, and this way it becomes much more sustainable. And I think in order for this idea of perpetual license in the virtual console to work, and in order for Nintendo to achieve, in order for these two things to be in harmony, where it's like, okay, you want a perpetual license, and we don't want to devalue Super Mario Brothers 3 by saying, okay, this is worth $3 for life.
Yeah.
I think the only way Nintendo can really achieve that is through like a subscription system where, they're like, you get access to the virtual console for as long as you pay, right? So you want it
Oh, sure.
forever.
So
you
you're
pay
saying
the
there's like
$5.99 a month, you pay the $9.99
right,
a month.
and you're buying games on top of
No,
it?
no,
Oh,
where it's
okay.
just like, this is it. Like, you have access to
Like
the,
a Netflix
yeah,
style?
basically
Okay.
like a Netflix style, except the library would kind of be like fixed, and they would be adding games to it over time. But
Right.
um,
I mean, I think there is one of the reasons that this is an issue is that I think we're being trained by phones to um, not hang on to old hardware. Um, like, no matter what Nintendo sells on whatever platform going forward, I've got my Super Nintendo and the like 15 or 16 games that like I love with all of my heart and will be able to play forever. Now, mind you, the batteries in some of them are dying, so I can't save in Super Metroid anymore, but like the games are still there and like I'll always be able to play them. Um and the same is true of the Wii U games I have. Um but there's like a question of preservation or of people coming back to those titles years later. This is a complicated issue, Mark. It's complicated. I don't have any way to wrap this up.
well, I mean, I don't think. Well, I will say that I don't think they are going to move to a subscription model with
Mhm.
Switch, um, just because it is a newer, I mean, kind of like trend in tech, and like the app stores and stuff to move towards the subscription model,
Yeah.
and Nintendo moves very slowly in this regard. So I
Yeah,
don't.
they're just getting to microtransactions now.
Yeah. So I don't know what their solution is going to be. Maybe they will just grant a license and you'll be able to use it, forever going forward.
Mhm.
It just feels unlikely to me. I like Disney has trained us really well with even if we're not conscious of it, of like this idea of the Disney Vault, where
Yeah.
it's like we're going to release DVDs and digital downloads of titles for a specific amount of time, and it's usually a couple of years. It's not like necessarily short, but it's a few years, and then it's like, and then we're going to remove it from the market.
Right.
And what that
Which
does is it maintains the value of these things, because it's like, oh, I've seen the commercial for this. It's being released from the Disney Vault. It's coming out.
yeah,
Like,
I remember thinking 101 Dalmatians, the animated the cartoon movie, that it came out when I was a kid because like they brought it out in theaters and had a whole like marketing push for bringing it out of the vault. It was made in like the 50s or
the
something. So,
60s, yeah.
So yeah, there is a like I probably wouldn't have been aware of that movie. Does that serve the customer? Does it serve the company? And I mean, almost what's the difference? Like,
Well, I think yeah. I mean, I think what it does, and people argue against it, but because they want access to it all the time. But I think that I want access to this all the time and I can't get it is what Disney wants, because they want people to want it. So when it is
yes,
released, they acquire it.
right.
And again, that's maintaining the value of these licensed titles instead of just flooding the market and be like, you want 101 Dalmatians? It's just going to be out there,
It's just
and it'll just be
wherever.
in the bargain
Yeah.
bin, and you can just like pick it up, and if your kid likes it, great. It was $1.99. And which doesn't really serve Disney that well, and I don't think it serves Nintendo that well to have like Mario 3 in a weird way, because it is attainable all the time if through virtual
Sure.
console.
Mm-hmm.
But thus far, it has been limited licenses, right?
Yes.
Where it's been like, you're buying it on the 3DS and you can keep it forever on the 3DS, but you
But
want it
that's
on the
it.
Wii U, you're going to
Yep.
buy it again, right? Because it's special. This is a special game. And I think Nintendo would be wise to figure out a way to maintain that, even if it upsets customers a little bit, because your alternative is the Sega bargain bin.
Sure. Well, and also like, maybe it's not cool to like question the consumer's reaction, but like, are you actually upset about it, or are you just excited for when you do get to play it? You know what I mean? Like, um, the sole reason that I got into collecting amiibos in the first place was because they were hard to find. Like when I had the opportunity to snatch up some rare amiibo, that's what got me like on it. And now they're easy to come by. I walked into Best Buy and bought this Mega Man on Saturday. Um, now that they're easy to buy, I don't have that same like fervor, but it's built into my brain that like this is a rare thing that you can buy. Um,
And I'm not defending Nintendo's account system, right? Like it's a
well,
mess
yeah,
right now.
it's bad.
You
Yeah.
know, like it's not great if you lose your 3DS. It should be like much easier to get your game.
Yeah.
You know, like that is that the license that stuff is a mess. And I'm not like saying that's good or consumer friendly. And I don't think that does what we're talking about here, which like maintaining the value. I think it's just kind of the legacy implementation that Nintendo again is. You know, they're not great at infrastructure.
Right, and maybe not great at knowing what their
Consumers want.
customers want. I mean, hey, we'll never see Mother 3. So
I don't believe that.
when on what platform will we see Mother 3?
Switch. I think we'll see it on the
What?
Switch. I think we'll see it on Switch, and I think we'll see it as part of like the virtual console. I think it'll be a big deal. Maybe at launch even.
That would be crazy.
Maybe like the virtual console launch title.
Mark, as I was doing just a little research here on scarcity, which is where this conversation started, I stumbled on just some one fact that I thought was super fun. The Super Famicom, when it was released in Japan, was so popular that it, just like the NES Classic, sold out within minutes of stores being open, right? And I've heard possibly apocryphal tales about Dragon Quest games only being released on weekends so that people wouldn't take off work to buy them. But according to David Sheff's book Game Over, the Japanese government actually asked hardware manufacturers after the release of the Super Famicom to only release on weekends because people were ditching work and school to buy them. But also, the Super Famicoms were so rare that it caught the attention of the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, and they were knocking over Super Famicom trucks. And so they were delivering them like at night and doing all these strange things to like deliver them safely to places so they wouldn't be robbed. So, until the mafia is knocking over NES Classic Edition trucks and stealing the contents, I think we're not as bad as the Super Famicom in Japan.
Yeah. We're doing all right.
We're doing all right. Mark, I think we've covered that.
Yeah, although I will say if anybody out there has any thoughts of their own, about scarcity, or really I'm really interested in your thoughts on the future of the virtual console.
Yeah, and the account system in general.
Yeah, and this idea of keeping Nintendo games scarce to maintain their value.
Yeah. Mark, where should they send their thoughts on that? They should send their thoughts to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. I'm sorry for pimping you out like that. It should always happen in the reverse, and I apologize. Mark, let's move into our listeners' reader mail. Today's question comes from Joe Fender. Joe wrote to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And if you have questions for us, you can also always post on our Facebook page or tweet at us. We check all of that stuff. Joe's question reads, "Hello, hosts." Hi, Joe. I'm curious about the thought process behind game compilations. Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers most famously, but there are lots more, I'm sure. How and why do game companies decide to do this? This model of packaging packaging games interests me because it seems to forecast bloatware on phones and operating systems, but seems somehow more curatorial than NFL and stock apps on your phone that you can't delete. So Joe's question is about compilations and game compilations, and whether or not they portended the apps on our phone that we can't get rid of. Mark, what are some of your are meaningful game compilations to you?
We talked about it briefly last week, but the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt and World Class Track Meet or
Yep.
World Class Track and Field.
I think it's World Class Track Meet, but
But that like combo cartridge that
Mhm.
came with the NES that
Yeah.
my parents bought. That's the
That's kind of the gold standard, right?
yeah, and I are we counting like Super Mario All Stars?
I think Super Mario All Stars is another good example. I would also put Wii Sports up there.
Yeah.
You can't buy those games separately, but like it is six. Who knows? Bowling, tennis, and others.
Bowling, tennis, boxing, golf. Was there anything else? I
Is it
think
just
that's it
those
in Wii
four?
Sports.
Okay, yeah, maybe it is just those four. Boxing and golf. What?
Golf's
Is
one of the
golf
better
fun?
ones. Boxing's a mess, but like golf is one of the better ones.
I always thought tennis was
Tennis, I think, is the
tennis is the money one.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Joe's question about I don't feel like game compilations often have a lot of fat on them, right? Like if we're saying like Mario All Stars, I guess like Lost Levels is kind of tossed in there as a novelty or
Yeah.
a curiosity.
I mean, I think of like we've named two of the good ones. I
Mhm.
think there are lots of bad well, not bad, but like unappealing to me game compilations. We would buy, or my parents would buy us like Namco Arcade Collection
Yeah.
because it was cheap, you know?
Or like the Namco Museum Volume 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, there's like Sega like classics compilations. And I think those a lot of times have games that are not, they're like thrown in for quote unquote added value,
Yeah.
but are just bad.
Yeah.
And especially because I don't really like arcade games that much.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, like getting one of those is just like, I'm going to play it a little bit, but
I feel like that's the perfect context for an arcade game like that, though, where like you're not going to play it for more than like 7 minutes at a time, and maybe only 3 or 4 times in your life, but it's in a package with a bunch of other games. Like I know, I had the Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube. I just said Mega Collection. I don't know if Mega is part of it. I may have made that up. But a Sonic Collection on GameCube, and it's all the 3D Sonic games, and there was maybe like a Game Gear Sonic, or there were like some other really disposable garbage games in there that I was interested in sampling, but because it also had Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, like I was satisfied with the product as it was.
yeah. So I think there's two kinds of game compilations. There's, like you're saying, the more curated ones, and
Mhm.
those I feel are usually, especially in Nintendo's history, used later in the console's life to add value to, like it comes as a package.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you buy this and then you also get this compilation game, and the console's been out for so long that we don't have to lower the price. So the whole thing will still be $199, but you get this pack-in game.
Right.
I feel like that a lot of times has been Nintendo's use for compilations. So I think that's one kind. I think the other kind is this kind of like like garbage disposal, approach,
Right.
where it's
Just
just
like a
like
catch-all.
we're gonna throw everything in here, and because quantity over quality,
Yeah.
right? Where it's just like because there's so many, it becomes worth your money potentially versus these games actually being able to like not all these games are going to be desirable.
Does it seem weird that Nintendo doesn't do more of these? Like especially now, and given given like their pedigree and like the value of their IP, and maybe it goes back to what you were saying about like they want to maintain the value, but like the Mega Man Legacy Collection, an awesome package, 6 games, great, right? Like I love having that thing. It's interesting that there aren't more. Like, what if they packaged in some sort of portable package the 3 Game Boy Zelda games? Like, that would be interesting. Or package slash like remake Metroid 2 and like put that with Super Metroid, or like anything. Like they have so many games that like are in need of like a repackaging and representation.
Yeah, I think part of the answer to your question, at least in my opinion, is that like value thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think when we were joking about it earlier, but when Super Mario All Stars was
Mhm.
released on the Wii as part of like Mario's anniversary, it was like
Yeah.
that was just Super Mario All Stars printed onto
A
a Wii
disc.
disc,
Yeah.
and that thing sold like like a respectable.
Yeah.
Like I bought it. 'Cause
Right.
I was like
There you go.
excited to be able to play.
It was in a red box.
Yeah, and it was like I was excited to be able to play these games, like on the
Mhm.
Wii basically without going through like, even though they were available in their original forms on the virtual console. So I think that's part of the reason why they uh don't do it, is because Nintendo has been able to maintain the value of these games, like individually.
Yeah.
And but I think the examples that you brought up of the like more forgotten Nintendo titles,
Mhm.
like like the Game Boy Zeldas, like I would 100% buy a compilation. I mean, like I'd buy a compilation of that in a second. I think that just comes down to Nintendo not being large enough, and they just don't have
The resources.
they just don't have
yeah.
the resources to do it. And even if they like would farm it out to a third party, they don't have like the brain power, like for somebody to supervise it,
Right.
like and maintain the Nintendo quality on something like that. I like Nintendo's growing and they are big, but they're not big enough to do everything.
Well,
that-
they have so many big and important IPs that it would be impossible to have enough managers to actively maintain them all.
Yeah.
Like,
And again, I don't even know if Nintendo thinks we want these Game Boy Zelda games. Like I don't even know if that has even
and
crossed
do
their
we?
mind.
You and I
Right,
say
we-
we do. If you find that you want a compilation of the Game Boy Zeldas, you can always write
we
into
didn't do
us.
this any at the beginning, so we're like really loading it here on the back end.
Yeah, sorry. Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
Yeah, I would love to hear everyone else's suggestions for that. How about a bunch of a compilation of Nintendo puzzle games? They did a Tetris versus Dr. Mario. What about a Tetris versus Dr. Mario versus Yoshi's Cookie versus
I mean, you
Wario's
never see
Woods?
Wario's Woods.
Yeah.
Wario's Woods like never mentioned ever. Or the
Except for me, every episode of this
right, yeah,
podcast.
exactly. Yeah, I think there's a ton of titles that have just been languishing in Nintendo's vast library, and they're not put on the virtual console, and they are not available. And I think fans would snatch them up if they were available, but whether it's manpower or just not aware that people want it.
Yeah.
I
Someday
just don't know.
Nintendo will be 10 companies.
No, that sounds so sad.
You just want Nintendo to be one company?
Yeah.
Mark, I think that's legit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe, for the question. That was listeners' reader mail. Readers, listener, it was something. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you get a second, we sure would love you to hop on over to iTunes to rate and review and subscribe. Tell your friends about this show if you like the show, and encourage them to do the same. If you can also follow us on, it's not an if, the sentence doesn't start with an if. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Nin Cart Society, and our Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. And if you like Mark and mine's opinions on stuff, we also write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo, and our theme music is provided to us by 8-Bit Betty. And if you like 8-Bit Betty, you can check him out on Bandcamp or 8bitbetty.com, or you can listen to a little bit of his music right here. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, I'm Patrick Eller saying watch out for solar flares, and thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?